During the Cold War, the Soviet Union launched thousands of surface-to-air missiles at a single aircraft. None of them hit. For more than 3 decades, one aircraft repeatedly flew toward the most heavily defended airspace on Earth, gathered intelligence, and then simply flew away. That aircraft was the SR-71 Blackbird. The Blackbird flew faster than a rifle bullet, higher than most fighter aircraft could reach, and hotter than many spacecraft during atmospheric re-entry. Its speed alone does not explain why it proved impossible to shoot down. The real explanation lies in the combination of engineering, physics, and operational doctrine that turned the aircraft into one of the most survivable reconnaissance systems ever built. In the late 1950s, the United States faced a serious intelligence problem. The Soviet Union was expanding its nuclear arsenal and building intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of striking North America. American military planners needed reliable information about these forces. They needed to know where missile bases were located, how many bombers existed, and how rapidly Soviet strategic forces were expanding. Without reliable intelligence, the United States risked making catastrophic strategic miscalculations. Underestimating Soviet capabilities could leave the country vulnerable to surprise attack. Overestimating them could trigger unnecessary escalation and massive defense spending. Accurate reconnaissance, therefore, became a central requirement of Cold War strategy. The first major solution was the U-2 reconnaissance aircraft. The U-2 flew above 70,000 feet, an altitude far beyond the reach of most fighter aircraft during the 1950s. For several years, this altitude advantage allowed American reconnaissance missions to photograph Soviet territory with relatively little interference. However, technological progress quickly changed the situation. Soviet engineers developed increasingly capable surface-to-air missile systems designed specifically to destroy high-altitude aircraft. In May 1961, of these missiles successfully shot down a U-2 flying deep inside Soviet airspace. The incident proved that altitude alone could no longer guarantee survival. The next reconnaissance aircraft would therefore need to defeat the entire Soviet air defense network. It would have to outrun interceptor aircraft, complicate radar tracking, and survive missile engagements. Designing such a machine required radical thinking. The aircraft that eventually emerged from this challenge was developed by Lockheed's Skunk Works engineering team. Instead of attempting to hide completely from radar, engineers chose a different solution. The new aircraft would operate at such extreme speed and altitude that enemy defenses could not intercept it in time. The result was the SR-71 Blackbird. At cruising speed, the aircraft traveled faster than Mach 3, more than 3 times the speed of sound. At this velocity, the Blackbird could cross an entire country in minutes. Flying this fast created enormous engineering problems. Friction with the atmosphere generated intense heat across the aircraft's surface. At maximum speed, parts of the airframe exceeded 300 degrees Celsius. Conventional aluminum aircraft structures would simply weaken or melt under these conditions. To survive such temperatures, the aircraft was built largely from titanium. Titanium retained strength at high temperatures and resisted the extreme stresses created during sustained Mach 3 flight. This material choice created additional difficulties because titanium was extremely difficult to machine and assemble. Engineers had to develop entirely new manufacturing techniques to build the aircraft. The heat generated during flight also caused the airframe to expand significantly. When the SR-71 sat on the runway, small gaps existed between several structural panels. These gaps were intentional. As the aircraft accelerated and heated up during flight, the metal expanded, sealing the panels tightly together. The aircraft's engines were equally unusual. The SR-71 used powerful Pratt & Whitney J58 engines capable of operating in multiple modes. At lower speeds, they functioned like conventional turbojet engines. At higher speeds, the airflow through the engine changed dramatically, allowing the aircraft to operate partially like a ramjet. This system allowed the aircraft to maintain extremely high speeds for long periods of time. The engines effectively used the aircraft's forward velocity to compress incoming air and generate additional thrust. Speed became the aircraft's most important defensive advantage. Surface-to-air missiles rely on several stages in order to destroy a target. First, radar systems must detect the aircraft. Then, tracking radar must maintain a stable lock on the target. After that, a missile must launch and accelerate toward a predicted intercept point. Finally, the missile's guidance system must adjust it. adjust its trajectory to collide with the aircraft. Each stage requires time. At Mach 3, the SR-71 traveled approximately 1 kilometer every second. By the time radar operators detected the aircraft and missile crews completed the launch sequence, the Blackbird had already moved many kilometers away. From the original detection point, missile guidance systems attempted to calculate where the aircraft would be in the future, but the extraordinary speed of the SR-71 made accurate prediction extremely difficult. Even small errors in calculation could cause the missile to miss by a wide margin. If a missile approached too closely, pilots had a simple response: they accelerated. Increasing speed forced the missile to chase a target that was already moving beyond its predicted intercept path. Altitude added another layer of protection. The SR-71 typically operated above 80,000 feet. At this height, the atmosphere becomes extremely thin. Many interceptor aircraft struggled to operate effectively in this environment, and surface-to-air missiles lost some maneuverability as air density decreased. Electronic warfare systems further improved survivability. The Blackbird carried equipment designed to interfere with radar signals and disrupt missile guidance. These countermeasures complicated radar tracking and reduced the accuracy of intercept calculations. The aircraft's distinctive shape also helped reduce radar reflections. Although the SR-71 was not invisible to radar, its design produced a smaller radar signature than many earlier aircraft. Together, these features created an integrated defensive system. Speed reduced interception time. Altitude limited enemy aircraft performance. Electronic countermeasures degraded radar tracking. Engine design allowed sustained extreme velocity. During its operational career, the SR-71 flew reconnaissance missions across large regions of the world. It monitored missile deployments, photographed military installations, and observed geopolitical crises in multiple regions. Air defense forces attempted repeatedly to intercept it. Intercepted aircraft were launched and numerous surface-to-air missiles were fired, yet none succeeded in destroying the aircraft. The Blackbird did not survive because it was invisible or invulnerable. Instead, it survived because every part of its design served a single purpose. The aircraft was built to outrun, outclimb, and outlast the entire defensive system designed to stop it. In the history of aviation, few aircraft demonstrate more clearly how engineering, physics, and strategic necessity can combine to produce a machine that changes the balance between offense and defense. The SR-71 Blackbird remains one of the most extraordinary aircraft ever built, not because it avoided danger, but because it repeatedly entered the most dangerous airspace on Earth and left unharmed. Kindly share. And by the way,